Welcome back again, everybody. This is the second bonus features video for our memory game that I've done with Xavier in the previous one. So if you haven't done the previous two videos, this one follows on again from those. So we've been creating a game in stages. The first one was like our sequencing game where you can follow those along. It gives you a random sequence of numbers, 5 in a row. And then the next step was to make a score that can then continually have your game level up as you get a higher score. It gets more and more complicated as you go on. This one is going to create a block. We're going to have to make our own custom block, which is something we do very often in Scratch. And we're going to have that be our game over condition, which then will keep track of who's got the high score, and it will ask that person to put their name in as the high scorer. So what we're going to do is I'll flick across to my game now, just so that you can see what I've got going on. And you can see here, here's the code that we made last time. So we've got it with our score, we've got our levels and all those sorts of things. Now, I'm going to clean up my blocks just to make sure nothing's overlapping. And what we want to have done now is we're going to do a little bit with our game over part of the game, okay? So what we want to do here is we're going to play around a little bit. And we're going to add a high score. We're going to add a high scorer, which are two things we want to store. So we want to store that high score. We want to store the name of the high scorer. And then we're going to make a custom block that's going to be our game over condition. So first things first, let's make a couple of variables. So our first variable will be high score. Actually, let's do it all with like big words just in case you want to have that sort of aesthetic on your game. So we've got high score here, okay? So that's the score, that's the high score, and then we want to have a new variable as well, which is called leader or high scorer. Let's call it leader, okay? So we've got our leader one as well, and you can see here leader is set to 0. Now I've got my sequence up here for testing purposes because we want it to be able to get to our win condition so that we can have these things here. But you can easily get rid of that by clicking the tick next to your list, right? Come and go. Once you start playing the game, you definitely want to remove that when you save it so that when you share it to people, they can get inside your game and not be able to sort of play with that and cheat. But we'll do that later. Right now I've got it up for testing purposes, which is totally fine. So right now what I want to do is once we get to game over, that's when we check for our high score. And to do that, we're going to make a couple of things. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to scroll all the way down here so you can see me working in this little empty space down here. We're going to make a little block and then we're going to produce that as our own custom set of blocks, okay? So in order to do that, first thing I want to do is make a block and I'm going to call it game over. All right. Okay, so I call it game over. And there it is, and I say okay. So there's my game over, right? And I want to define game over down here. So as soon as I make my block, it tells me, so what does game over mean? Like once you call for that block, I need to know exactly what you're talking about. So to do that, we're going to define it down here. And so basically, what we want it to do is we're going to take this chunk here from what's inside our block. We're going to duplicate that, duplicate the whole end condition and plug it in there. Okay, and then we need to add a little bit of a loop here, or so like an if-then statement that's going to check for what's going on inside our game, and it's going to make sure that we can store those variables as our high score and high scorer. So let's grab a control block. We want an if-then, and we're going to plug that in around this. Okay, and we want it to say if our score is more than our high score, then change it over. So if greater than, and then we go back to our variables that we made, or not control variables. So we've got high score and score. So if our score ends up being more than our high score, okay, which is how you change the high score, right? So like if you had 20 last time, you get 30 this time, we've got a new high score. So if your score now is more than the previous high score, I want you to change, oh no, we want to set high score, sorry. So set high score to score. Okay, so now our high score becomes the score that we have. And then we want it to also ask, well, who are you? Who is this person? So we want it to have a sensing. We want it to ask something and wait. All right. So we're going to ask, what's your name and wait, which is pretty much perfect. That's exactly what we want it to do. And then we want to have that. We want to set our variable, which is our high scorer. So set leader. Okay. We bring that down here. What's your name and wait? And we want to set that to our answer. Okay, so once it asks you, you can type your name in and then it will set that to whatever you type in. Okay, we want to pop this up here because we want our dun-dun-duns. We want to pull our stop all out and then we want to plug all this in underneath. So we say game over and we put stop all in at the end. So that there, actually let's pop our stop all in after our if. So once we get through our if, so we've got at game over point, check that the score is higher than the high score previously. If it is, well actually let's pull this out here, pop this up here, plug all this in here, and that makes a lot more sense. So as soon as game over happens, we play our sad noise. We say game over, and that's a sad thing, so let's make it an exclamation. So we say game over for 2 seconds. If the score is higher than the high score, which is the only time we want to have to check that, we then set our high score, it asks your name, and it will change your name to that. So now we come back up here, and all of these ones here, which are in our else, we need to bin them, and instead of that, we grab our game over block. Okay, so we've created that here. That's what we define as our game over, the bright pink one. So every time we see this block, it's going to come down here and check what we've defined as our game over state. So we get rid of those, plug in game over, get rid of those, plug in game over, get rid of these, plug in game over, and that should be everything we need. So let's clean up our blocks and make sure everything looks really nice. And then we can just test our game. Let's give it a quick test, shall we? So we should click green flag and it will take it back to 5 things in our sequence only. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, kick off. All right, so let's check what we've got. We go 2, 2, 1, 4, 1. We win. Now let's lose. I'm going to lose on purpose. And what we should see is once I lose, it should set my high score to be 6. So let's just get it wrong. Cool. It says, you know, what's your name? Changes the leader to me. Changes the high score to 6. So the next time we play, let's give it another quick test. Pop that up there. Okay, so we get to our win state. Changes my score to 6. Welcome to level 2. I get 6 in my list, which is what I wanted. I go, got it wrong. So my high score doesn't check for me. Fantastic. Okay, that's what we wanted. The high score is the same, so it's not going to check. I'm still the leader. We could do a couple of other things with it. So we could ask it to sort of maintain those here, but what we want to do is let's remove our sequence here. Cool. And then we'll just set that up so it looks a bit nicer. All right, so current leader is me. Current high score is 6. And then the actual score I got here is 6. And that's pretty much our finished game. It's nice and polished off now. So that, we made our own block, all right, which is probably something you may not have done before if you play with Scratch. And that just there is a really nice way to be able to do something completely replicable. So if you know a function that you want to have happen, okay, nice programmery word there, a function, a thing that you want it to do over and over again the same way every single time, then what we do is we can define those in our own nice pink blocks in Scratch and have that work for us really nicely every single time. It's always going to be the same. So that's cool, everybody. I hope you enjoyed making that game with us. If you think of anything cool you'd like to add, please feel free to share your project with us. We love seeing it when it comes through. You can share it with us on socials like Twitter, but you can also share it straight to us at rpf.io/home. If you make a really sweet game that you're really, really proud of with lots of cool polished bits like a coin screen and a game over screen and all that sort of stuff, then we can also have that shared to us at rpf.io/home, or you can give it to us for coolest projects as well, which is opening soon. So don't forget to register for that if you made some awesome stuff. You can get some really cool recognition amongst the community, and you can have a whole competition that we're running online this year because of the conditions we're under right now. So I'll see you next time, everybody. Keep making cool stuff, and just because we're not all in the same place doesn't mean we can't get together and make amazing things. So I'll catch you later, guys. Stay safe. Bye.